CQ POTA, CQ POTA. This is Victor Echo 7, Sierra Alpha Romeo calling CQ for Parks on the Air.
All right, good morning. Welcome to Parks on the Air introduction workshop. For those who don't know me, I'm Dmitry. I'm VS7 DVO, that's what the head says. I'm a relatively new radio amateur. I got my license last November, and Parks on the Air was definitely on my list of interests. Kind of combines a couple of hobbies of mine. So I put this presentation together to kind of share my knowledge, what I learned doing my adventures, and hopefully it will be useful. And we will have a field trip today at the end of it. So agenda for today, we're gonna go into POTA, what is Parks on the Air, what this program is. We'll look at the overview of the program, terminology. We'll look at the rules very briefly. Rules for POTA are very simple, so it shouldn't take us long. We'll look at logging, exactly what is required to do logging for the POTA. We'll look at the equipment. I'll show my kit. We'll go through all the radios, antennas, and all the wish list that you want to have for successful portable operation. We'll look at the station setup for digital FT8 and single sideband voice. We'll look at the example CQ calls and exchanges. We'll look at log uploads and what to do if logs are messed up. We'll look at the awards that POTA gives. There are lots of them. And at the end of it, we are going on a field trip. I just double checked with John Brody that event that we talked about earlier is actually at different locations, so we can carry on with plan A and go to Serpentine Wildlife Management Area as planned, which is much closer to where we are. It's about 10-minute drive from here. I'll have a map at the end of the presentation. So we're good there. So what is POTA, what is Parks on the Air? So it started in 2017 as Amateur Radio League of America National Park on the Air Special, and people liked it so much that they decided to continue. It's a very, very active program. At any given moment, there are multiple people at multiple parks all over the place, and it's very well organized, very well run program, and it's very easy to make contacts, and it's highly desirable as well because it gives points not just to you being at the park, but to the people contacting you as well. So people are actively searching for Parks on the Air. The rules are very few and they are very simple. That makes it even more attractive. So why do POTA? So for myself, I like to practice portable operation, especially portable HF operation. I really like to learn about antennas. I built a couple of antennas myself doing that, and that kind of got me into it. More than anything, parks are very, very nice. This is me in like 3 weeks ago in one of the parks, and it's beautiful. It's gorgeous. It puts you at a location that you would not normally attend, but beautiful, beautiful locations. And for me, it combines two hobbies. One is radio, and another one is outdoors. So I like to go outdoors. I do camping, kayaking, hiking, and bringing radio with me makes it even more interesting. So POTA terminology. Very briefly, so what is the park? Park is a designated park. They are listed on POTA website. There are certain parks that logically should be designated, but they're not. So don't just go to any park, look for your park reference on the POTA site. Activator, that's the person at the park. In our case, that's us. Hunter is the person making contact with activator, with the person in the park, right? Park to park is a contact between activators at different parks. That's a special category for that, special award for that, and again, it's highly, highly desirable. If you're making contacts with someone else at the park, you will be you'll be put in front of the queue. Kind of based on my experience. Successful activation and activation is 10 logged contacts while you're at the park. Very important within a single UTC day. UTC day is flips into the new day at 5 p.m. So right now like 6 or 7 hours ahead. So right now it's like 4 p.m. UTC, 5 p.m. UTC. Okay, keep that in mind. It has to be UTC day. All of the times for POTA are UTC.
So if I start at 4:50 and end at 5:30, I've crossed the UTC?
You crossed, yeah. I've done it multiple times when I started at 4.
Sure.
One time I didn't have enough contacts,
Yeah.
so I had to stay into a new day after 5 p.m., make 10 contacts to successfully activate the park. The second time I timed my activation in such a way that I had 10 contacts before 5 p.m. and another 10 after 5 p.m. So I activated the park twice on 2 different days.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of a little hint. So spotting is a record of ongoing activation on POTA spotting page. People, you can self-spot. It's encouraged to self-spot, so people know that you're just not blindly calling CQ. People also, the hunters also respot you all the time, and it kind of keeps your spotting page active.
Can you do it in advance?
You can, exactly. So we will talk about that. We've done it already for our activation. We put it to different park, but we'll do one in advance before we go. So the multi-log 2 fear, free fear, that's an advanced topic that some parks spread across multiple boundaries. So you can have one park in 2 different states and 2 people activating it at the same time. It doesn't necessarily apply to us all the time, so I'm not going to talk about it too much. But this is, if you see that term, that's what it means. It does not mean it's a club activation. It's something else. Okay, so general radio terminology used in POTA. QSO is radio contact, used interchangeably with contacts. QRZ, who is calling me? QSL, did you copy? As a question. QSL, I did copy as an answer. Works mostly on SSB, as most of you probably are familiar with contacting, so you're probably familiar with that terminology. And QRT, my station is shut down. You put QRT on the spotting page when you're done, to kind of let people know that you're done and they're no longer looking for you. It's kind of good practice. POTA logging, the required fields are very, very few. So you need to station call sign or operator. If you're doing it on your own, that would be the same for both of those fields. You're only filling out the station call sign. If we're doing a club activation or multi-operator activation, like we're doing now, we will be using club call sign as a station call sign, and we will be using operator call sign as our own call sign, whoever is running the radio at the time. So both the club gets the credit and the operator gets the credit. That's the way POTA recommends logging for multi-activations like us. Call, that's other person call sign contacting you. QSO date, that's a date in UTC time. Time on, that's when you got your contact, again UTC time. Band is which band you're on, frequency. And mode or sub-mode, that's where you put FT8 or SSB or whatever you're using, CW, whatever you're using. So very few fields. It's easy enough to go through that. There's no specific exchange either. I'll get to exchange a little bit later. So park to park requires one more field. SIG info, that's the field used in ADI file format to do park to park, to record park to park. Park to park is interesting and it's pretty cool. That gives you more rewards as well. So this is an example log created by WSJTX. That's the program that used to run FTA to digital mode on the computer, and it has a built-in logging facility. This software I use, I'll touch on that to look at this, and I highlighted what you can see there in terms of required fields. See, only those highlighted fields are required, but WSJTX does other fields automatically for you. For example, date off, time off, it's not technically required, but it's there. So before you submit the logs, you use software application to review them and make sure that all of those fields are present. And I'll touch on that a little bit later on. So this is logging as done by done for a single sideband. This log was created by HAM-RS. That's another piece of software I'll be touching on. Very, very simple to use piece of software for logging and specifically designed for POTA use. Again, there are all the required fields. This one also contains park to park. The FT8 log doesn't have park to park. So the park to park for FT8 kind of happens automatically when you upload the logs. The system figures it out. If two of you are at the parks at the same time, make contacts, that's park to park. Okay, so where are the parks? Check the POTA site for the parks. This is the page of our local area. All the yellow spots are designated parks. There are plenty of them. BC has about 1,200 designated parks. So plenty to choose from. Lots and lots and lots. This is the link on the POTA website to the map. Okay. So rules primer. You must be a designated park. You cannot just go to any random park and expect to do POTA. It has to be on the POTA list. And the park boundaries, check them in advance. This is example of Boundary Bay Park. The POTA puts it right in the middle of the bay. You're not expected to be in the middle of the bay. This is what BC Parks puts on their website. So the shoreline, of course, is included. You don't expect it to get on a kayak or float to the middle of the bay and do POTA from there. You can. I mean, no one will stopping you. Yeah, it'll be even more fun. Another rule, you must be on public land. So if, let's say, there's a golf course in the middle of the park, technically it's not private land, so you won't be able to do it from there by rules. So kind of check the land ownership. It has to be public land and accessible by public. You cannot just jump the fence to go to the park. It needs to be accessible to general public. No repeaters. Satellites are okay. I've never seen anyone doing POTA on satellites, but okay, can be first. That's good. No repeaters though. So it has to be, even if you're doing FM simplex, it has to be simplex, even if you're doing 2 meters or 440. Activators do all the logging. So you as an activator are responsible for all the logging. Hunters don't do any logs, they don't upload any logs, it's all on the activator, on you. And you must log all of the required fields. If you don't, your log might be rejected, you might not make enough contacts as a result, and that will be a very frustrating experience. Right? So just make sure that you log at everything you need. There are no power limits. If you feel like carrying 1,000-watt amplifier with you in your backpack, by all means, just do that. There are no power limits. Bands and modes. So bands are almost always HF. I have seen once, I took a screenshot of that, somebody doing activation on FM, simplex. In Washington State, I tried contacting them, I could hear them, so yeah, it's very uncommon. Most of this POTA activation, most of the POTA activations are done on HF. Most common ones are 20 meters, followed by 40 meters. Again, you can do anything, but as long as you put yourself on the spotting page and people know where to look for you, that's fine. But you're not, because 20 meters and 40 meters are the most common ones. The 20 meter propagation is pretty good all the time, so that's where people kind of congregate most of the times. SSB, digital, FT8, and CW are the most common. So you still can see most people doing it on SSB. FT8 is quite common, CW is quite common as well. So those two kind of competing with one another. Again, because CW is so, propagation is so much better, the power limits are so much lower, lots of people still doing CW. So feel free to do, but again, anything is allowed. So we at the stage of looking at equipment. So I put together a wish list of what I'm looking for in the equipment, and I have a few examples of what I've seen people do most commonly. It's not exhaustive list, it's just a list of what I've seen people do online and publish videos online, how they do POTAs. The wish list is radio needs to be portable, portable enough. It should produce enough power. So I would say over 20 watts minimum for success. Lots of times one radio can only do 5 watts. People bring in portable amplifiers with them to bring themselves up. But again, if you're successful doing it on 5 watts, by all means. Built-in tuner is nice. If you're using the non-tuned antenna, I will be using tuned antenna. I have a tuner with me, but I'm probably not gonna use it because antenna doesn't need to be tuned. Built-in sound card, again, it used to be bigger, but it is. You can get external sound card for very, very cheap, and they're very small as well. So those are the radios that I've seen people use a lot. Yaesu FT891, that's this guy. I have one of those. ICOM IC7300 kind of fits the bill for everything, except it's not super portable. I would not call it backpackable radio necessarily. It's a bit larger. So this definitely fits in the backpack. This doesn't, but it's very good radio. I see people do it, especially from the cars. People do it all the time. ICOM IC705, great radio. Only 10 watts, it doesn't have a tuner. Other than that, yeah, it checks lots of check marks. Elecraft, that's the one you have got, right? So I did a quick search, yeah, it's definitely portable. 10 watts, I believe it's only puts out. No?
I have a KX3, slightly different.
Okay.
It has a tuner, 15 watts.
Oh, cool, yeah. So, should do, right? Should do.
Sound card too.
No.
Finally, Xiegu G90. It's portable, it's 20 watts, so it's pretty good. Has a built-in tuner, doesn't have a sound card. People use it all the time as well. So that's what I've seen in my research. Not to say that you cannot use anything else. By all means, again, if it works for you, it works for you. Antennas, the most common one that I've seen people use and the most effective is wire antenna and fat half wave on fiberglass mast or dipole on fiberglass mast. The advantage of fiberglass mast is deployable everywhere. You don't rely on the landscape to install your antenna. Your antenna mast is with you. Of course, it's something more to carry. So for the if you throw an antenna into the tree, you don't need to carry much. But for fiberglass mast, it's bulky, it's heavy, but it's very, very effective. Wire antenna in the tree, that's what I was using in my ventures. Here's me trying to throw antenna into the tree using arborist weight line. I'll show it, I'll have it with me. It can be exercise and frustration because it can take quite a few attempts to do properly. Yeah, but it works, it's quite effective. And finally, vertical telescopic. I have one with me as well. I had success with it, but I didn't have much success. I had success on FT8. On voice, I did Illinois on it, but I had very, very hard time getting through. So it's not a bad antenna. It's very compact, it's very small, it's very easy to deploy. I have one, we'll try it, but it's not super effective. This is tunable antenna as well with the claim, so it can be tuned to anything. How good is the claim? I don't know. On 20 meters seems to be working fine. Okay. So and fat half wave seems to be the most commonly used. Simple reason, it's very easy to build, very easy to deploy. You throw in one end into the tree or into the mast, and you connect your coax to another end, and you work. That's it. That's nothing to it. Very, very, very easy. This is you need transformer. You need 49 to 1 transformer, which again is very easy to build. I have a couple of those antennas with me. So one I built from the kit, another one I built myself, and seems to be working just fine. The one transformer I have has a see-through window, so you can take a look how it looks like in real life. It's nothing to build, and it's inexpensive as well. So the advantages of this antenna, another advantage is fairly short. So you need 10 meters of cable, which is quite manageable. 10 meters of cable you can hang everywhere. 20 meters if you want to add 40-meter band. It's multi-band, so you can use same antenna for 10 meters, for 20 meters, for 15 meters, for 40 meters, depending how long the antenna is. Some antennas you can use for 40 meters as well. You can add coil to it. One of my antennas I have coils, so to make it work on 40 meters. We'll see how that works. Basically, we'll try them all. Coax cable acts as a counterpoise. You really don't need, you can use counterpoise. I tried it, it seemed to make very little difference. And there's a certain formula you can use how long this needs to be. 6 feet seems to be the recommended size. For me, it made no difference. It doesn't need to be grounded either. You can, but it doesn't have to be. I tried grounding it, didn't make a difference. So very easy to deploy and very reliable antenna. And that's why it's must be the most popular one. So this is not on the slides I sent you. That's the new slide that came out for it yesterday. For end fed half wave, coax acts as a counterpoise. There's enough metal and coax cable to act as a counterpoise. That means that you need minimum of 15 meters or 50 feet of coax cable to make antenna efficient. So the thicker the cable is better, of course, based on the loss. But of course, for portable operation, we are concerned about the weight. The best cable, again, based on the loss and based on the weight, is LMR 195. It's lighter than RJ8X, and it has less of loss. So that seems to be the cable of choice. And it's about the same size as RJ58. So all the connectors, all the crimp connectors work. That work for RJ58 work for that cable as well. So you need 15 meters, 50 feet, and this is stable with attenuation and LMR 195. It's really, really good. Very, produces very good results. So common mode choke. If you in a noisy environment, you want to get rid of some of the noise, and those are the things, examples of those common mode chokes. Very easy to build. I have one. If you're in the remote location and there's no noise, you don't need one. If you're in a busy location like we're going to be, might be worthwhile trying it on. Again, all of this is just a toroid with a coax wrapped around it. There's a certain number of turns, and you can go a bit more advanced building box like this. Power. So you're doing portable operations, so you're running off batteries. So the wish list for batteries, it needs to be light, and it needs to provide high sustained amperage. With the radio, Yays on 100 watts can draw 16 amps, so that's significant. So if the battery cannot handle it, it will overheat, it will destroy itself essentially. So the vendor of choice in an amateur radio field is BioInno Power. They make the most popular batteries. It's a good price point. You can get something cheaper, but they specifically designed for amateur radio. They have Anderson power pole connectors on them pre-installed, which is kind of nice. And they publish high sustained amperage, how much power you can draw with it continuously. Not just like for a brief moment, but continuously. And the one I have is 15 amps, and it can draw 30 amps of continuous power, which my laser will never be able to produce. So it's lithium iron phosphate. It's better than lithium. It's more stable. It's lighter, and it's not gonna explode on you. You can drill holes through it. It's much safer than lithium on itself, and it will not catch fire, and it's not acid battery, because if it's in your backpack, you don't want acid to be leaking. Even sealed and acid batteries, they're typically heavier as well. Power meters, that's the one I have. It's super simple to use and works, gives battery voltage. With lithium iron phosphate, voltage stays the same until battery is completely discharged. So the voltage is not necessarily a good indication of how good your battery health is. So you kind of need to have an idea how long can you run. I've been running for a couple of hours on the battery I have, doing FT8. FT8 is a high duty cycle, so it draws lots of power. A couple of hours seems to be fine, maybe even longer. The cables for your accessories. For FT8, you need laptop. Laptop's power adapters are extremely noisy on RF. So the one I got is actually DC to DC adapter. It takes in 12 volts and outputs whatever voltage is required for my laptop. I never tried it yet. It's a good opportunity to try and see how much noise it produces, but it should produce less noise than the 110 volt one. I'll show my kit at the end of it, so we can kind of look into practical and finally logistics. So how are you going to carry those? So some people, this is the local ham, he did lots and lots of local activations. He got it to the sites. He has a little cart with his equipment on top of it. He drags it out of his car and he uses it as his portable desk with laptop and everything else. And logistically it works really, really well for him. This is my kit. I have it in backpack, and pretty much that's exploded view of the backpack. So I guess it's a good time to show the kit. So this is, everything fits in here. Everything I need fits in here. This is Arborist tube that holds the throw line. So it's pretty amazing thing. It kind of unfolds. It unfolds into this, and in here I have the throw line, the beanbag, that I use to throw into the tree, right? There's some science to it, watch some YouTube videos how they do it, but yeah, I've been quite successful, and the line is specifically designed to not to snag and not to catch into the tree. It's 150 foot of line here, and it folds into tiny, tiny little carry-on. So for the rest of the kit, this is my battery. That's the one I can use to run for a couple of hours at least. It's 15 amp hours, and it can produce 30 amp hours sustained load. I have my Nano VNA if I want to check my antenna. So I have headphones for SSB operation. Helps when you're in a noisy location, kind of isolates, you can hear better using headphones. I found that the microphone, it's a cheapish headset. I found the microphone on it is not really good, it doesn't produce much. It's too quiet, and the tone of voice, it's very muffled. So I'm not going to be using the microphone on this, but I will be using headset. Coax cable. This is RJ8X, and worked quite well. So this is the antenna, and fed halfway with a transformer on it. So I have 20 meters of wire in here, and this is the one I will be trying today on the fiberglass mast. I also have 10-meter wire. It just clips in using carabiner to the same transformer, so the antenna wires are interchangeable. And if I'm limited on space, that's another option that I have. Start of the show, that's the radio. That's Yizu FT891. I 3D printed the rails for it to kind of protect the face. I keep my cables organized. So let's see, Yeah, so digital. So because I'm doing FT8 mostly, digital requires a bit more equipment. It requires sound card because my radio doesn't have sound card built in. So I'll show it to you in a second. And external GPS receiver for time synchronization. I'll get to the subject of time in a few slides. So in here, this is the power cable for the radio. I always put ferrite rings on it to kind of prevent radio interference on all of them. This is the external sound card for Yaesu radio, so that's pretty much it. It's DigiRig external sound card, super simple device. It's required for FT8 to convert digital signal into audio signal. Okay. This is the adapter for the radio, power adapter. This is the power meter. When I plug it in, it kind of gives me an idea how much juice I have left in the battery, how much power I'm drawing. USB cable to connect the radio to the laptop. This is used to control the radio, to change the frequencies. This is GPS, USB GPS for time synchronization. I'll touch on time later on. Time is important for digital mode. This is just the card adapter with the power pole on it. And a couple of USB cables. So this is my digital kit. On top of that, this is a DC to DC adapter for the laptop with the power poles on them. The microphone, the default microphone that came with Yaesu. This is a little pedal for push to talk, tiny little one. So it keeps my hands free for logging. This is add-on for Yaesu. That's like a little keyboard. So if you're running on SSB, you don't want to be repeating yourself all the time. So you can pre-record the messages and call them out using buttons. Super useful. And finally, this is audio amplifier for the microphone. So if I find myself in condition when I need amplification, this has built-in battery in it, and it will provide quite a bit of amplification. Yeah. So that's about it for. Oh, before I forget, so that's. This is the battery box. So basically, battery plugs in here. It has a main circuit breaker if I overload it. It has another circuit breaker for USB port, and it has the indicator for the battery power, how much battery I have left here. And USB, it can be used for accessories. I have like a little lamp with me that I can plug into USB if I need a bit more light in the field. And overall, that's the box I built. That's a project box, and now it's 3D printed those faceplates for me. And it's heavy because it's full of toroids inside of it. So I try to prevent as much RF interference. So pretty much every cable inside of it has a toroid. So it's mighty heavy. So we'll be putting this kit to a test today when we go to the field. So carrying on, let's look at FT8 and what is required in terms of the software for operating in digital modes. So the main application is WSJTX. This is FT8 encoder, decoder, and logger. So it will get your digital signal. It will transcribe it into audio and send it over to the radio using either built-in audio cards or external audio cards, like in my case. This is the only software more or less required to run FT8. Nice to haves, GT Sync. It's a time sync, either using NTP, network time protocol. Network time protocol, of course, requires internet connection. If you're at a site that doesn't have network connection, you can also use other stations to synchronize your time. I'll touch on it a little bit later on. GPS to time, that is the software, again, written by another Ham, that allows you to do time sync using GPS module, using this little USB puck. I'll touch on it as well.
Hey.
EDIF master, that's the log editor, very useful software to review the logs before submitting them, so you know that your logs are good. Grid tracker is an add-on for FT8 that does maps, it does logging, it does alerts. It's very useful piece of software. Makes FT8 much more interesting. You actually see on the map who is contacting you, how far they are, where they are, you know. Or it does QRZ lookup on the fly as well, so you know who they are. It makes it much more interesting, and alerting I really like. So this is not exhaustive session on WSGTX. I'm just going to show what you need to fill out to get it to work. So software is free. You download it, you install it. It's available for Windows, Mac OS, even Raspberry Pi. So it's available on anything. It's not available on tablets, but anything with more computer power, it's available. So you need to give your call sign and you need to give your grid. That is something that software will be using to make contacts. So anything in red here, that you must enter it. Radio is rig specific, and I know there's lots of red in here. Basically, that's what you need to touch. It has lots of presets for multiple radios, and chances are if you select a preset, it will just work. So I kind of did that. Yaesu presents itself using two ports, the two serial ports. One of them is used to, actually three. One of them is used to control the radio. The other one is used to control the audio. That's your external USB sound card. And it presents itself as a COM port because it can control the radio as well, but not the Yaesu. Okay, and once everything is in, you press the test cat, that's the radio control button. If it's green, that means the software can control the radio, which is good. It's not 100% required, you can do everything manual, but it's very useful. When you're changing the frequencies between 20 meters and 40 meters, it will just preset the frequencies for you. And then once this lights up green, you can do test PTT. It will send a test signal, and it will verify that you can actually transmit. Audio interface, this is a DigiRig, so you just select the one and make sure it's mono. It shows up as USB PNP sound device. So sometimes it if you have multiple devices, you need to plug it, unplug it a few times to identify exactly which device it is. Adjust receive gain. FT does not work if you're oversaturating your incoming signal. So you want to adjust your gain on the radio until you're roughly in the green here, around 60 dB. Right. So I will demonstrate it in the field as well. So to make sure that we're not oversaturating incoming receive transmission. So same for transmission, you don't want to oversaturate your transmission because that will make harder for other stations to decode your signal. So ALC, automatic level control, is used to monitor how much is going out, and there's a power button, a power slider that you can use to adjust how much power is sent out. Again, this is there's like a tune button you press, and then you see how much is going out. You want to make sure that it's not oversaturating. Okay, generic radio settings. So you want to use the max bandwidth. Most of the radios in digital default to very limited bandwidth. You want to use max, 3000 Hertz for Yaesu. No signal processing, no noise cancelling, no compressor, no notch filters. Let software handle it all. Software is very good at decoding. And watch automatic level control, do not oversaturate. FT8 time synchronization, FT8 is time sensitive. Anything over 1 second, you might have hard time making contact. Anything over 2 seconds, you're likely to fail making contacts. So 2 seconds is very, very sensitive. So most of the computers don't do it. Like for them, 2 seconds is not a lot, but for FT8 it is a lot. So we need to look into synchronizing time before we start making contacts on FT8. NTP is the network time protocol. Is the most commonly used when you have internet connectivity. You can use built-in Windows OS tools, Windows or Mac. They're not accurate enough. They don't care about 2 seconds. So I prefer to use a software that's specifically designed for that. So the very interesting piece of software is JT Sync. It can do a couple of things. It can synchronize using NTP, as lots of other software pieces can do, but it also can listen to your traffic. It will notice what's the time difference with other stations, and it can calculate average time difference with other stations and adjust your clock based on that. With FT8, you don't have to be right on the clock. You need to be within 2 seconds of other station. So it's not uncommon to fudge your time if you want to make contact with other station. So for example, this station shows up in red, minus 1.7 seconds. So you can just put minus 1.7 seconds, fudge your time to that, and you will make contact with this station more reliably. And this piece of software can do it all. Very, very useful. If you're offline, that's one of the options you can use to synchronize your time if you don't have GPS. Just look at other stations, and they cannot be all wrong, and it takes seconds to synchronize the time. So you don't have to bring GPS with you. If you like GPS, that's what I kind of just touched on. You can fudge time if you want to contact, and it can synchronize based on other stations. If you like GPS, that GPS pack works very, very well. It's something like $12. It costs next to nothing. The software that I looked at is GPS Time. Again, it's designed by Ada Ham, and it kind of has Ham in mind. What it's going to give you is your grid square. So if you're at location and you don't know what your grid square is, it will calculate it for you. It can also update your position in your FT8 software in WS GTX. Very, very useful as well, and works very well with this little USB pad. Grid tracker, I'm not gonna talk too much about that. It's quite big, but it's very, very useful. So you can see all the previous contacts you made. Some people hunting the grids on the map. It kind of makes it interesting to continue using FT8. And it has alerting, which kind of very, very useful as well when incoming connection is coming in. You want to know about that. So now let's talk about POTA specifically. So before going to the park, I recommend you do a test setup. You set up in your backyard with your equipment and make sure you're not forgetting anything. There's nothing wrong, nothing worse than arriving at the park and, okay, don't have a coax, I don't have a power cable, I don't have a adapter. And now you're going back home. So have everything, even prepare an equipment checklist so you don't forget something next time. Get some supplies, you're at the park, you're on your own. Get a bear spray if you have to. I mean, it's BC, we have bears, we're in the wilderness. So you have enough food and water, sunscreen and mosquito repellent, anything that you would take to the park normally. Get park designation on grid square. So you need to know which park you are for logging, and if you're doing SSB, lots of times people exchange this information. So you want to know what park you are, the designation and the name of the park. And schedule activation on the POTA site. Make sure it's all UTC time. The big reason, so people know where to look for you. For FT8, you will even can get spotted automatically if you schedule the activation ahead of time. So lots of times, I just setting up the operation and people are already calling me because they look at the scheduled activations and they can see me already. So it makes it much easier. And the reason why you want to schedule activation, you might be at the park with no cell coverage and you cannot schedule activation on the spot. So schedule it ahead of time. So before we go, John, we will activate all of our, schedule activations for all of our stations. So at the park, make sure you're inside park boundaries. Lots of people do it from the parking lot. If it's inside the park boundaries, that's fine. If it's not, then you might be violating the rules. If the parking lot is outside of the park boundary. Make sure you're on public land. You cannot jump the fences. You cannot go through private land to get to public land either. So be sure about that. Park must be open to public. So some parks have seasonal closures. If park is closed and not available to public, even though you can get there yourself, you should not be doing POTA from there. So park needs to be accessible to public. Keep your workspace organized. Like I showed that card for the guy, he does a brilliant job. He's done it many times. So carry your stuff with you. I will be bringing the table. Normally I wouldn't bring it for backpacking. I have a little portable table for backpacking. But today we have a luxury of having a proper table at the spot and chairs. Deploy antenna, throw it into the tree, find a spot where you can easily deploy the antenna. Before going to the park, Alex and I did a scouting mission, so we kind of figured out where we're going to be throwing antenna at, where we'll be stationed. So hopefully it will work out today. Connect everything, follow radio checklist. So I have prepared the radio checklist that has everything on it. And I go through it when I'm setting up my station, so I just don't forget. Because otherwise, okay, I didn't set my bandwidth properly, or I haven't set my grid square and stuff like this. So I have this checklist. I go through. It's in the presentation as well, so I'll show you very quickly what I'm doing with that checklist. Do a quick listen. On FT8, I also try to make contact to make sure that I not only can hear people, but they can hear me as well, because it can be very frustrating if I start calling CQ and no one can hear me because my audio interface is not set up right. So I do like one contact ahead of time and then start fresh log afterwards. So cell spots. So for club activation, we will be using multiple stations. So we will be adding R/R01/R0203, how many stations we have today. We have at least 2. I'm not sure if Andrew brought his. He might have, so that means we'll have 3 stations. And start calling CQ POTA. So I'll go through the CQ calls on FT8 and SSB. So before you start calling, I always like to rename the old log, so I start the fresh log in the software, just for that particular POTA. Set the grid, set the park grid to the park grid, because that's your home station grid. The park might be a different grid. So the park, you can get this grid information from the POTA website, or you can get it on GPS. And my call, that's the station call. So for our activation, we will be using club call sign here in software and different operators. Okay, so this is the waterfall that WSJTX produces. You want to find the area that is relatively free of traffic. You don't want to be anywhere here. And you can adjust the contrast in that waterfall, because sometimes the signal is there, but it's so fainted that you cannot see it unless you adjust the contrast. And once you find yourself, control-click on that spot, and that will put you on there in the software. And another thing you want to do is to hold this transmission frequency. In FT8, you kind of changing the frequency depending on the station that's contacting you. When you're calling CQ, you want to hold this frequency in place. The reply frequency will still be different, but the transmit frequency, you want to stick to the transmit frequency, because you found a good spot, you found a clear spot on the waterfall. And when you're calling CQ, you want to have some automation in place. When you're replying to first station coming back to you, you're automatically replying. So POTA rules don't allow completely automated contacts. So once you make a contact, your transmission stops, you need to manually re-enable it. So fully automation contact is not allowed by POTA rules. Okay, so WSGTX will help you out. It will not cheat in the rules. Once you make a contact, you logged it, your transmission stops, it needs to be re-enabled manually. Okay, so then you're setting your call to secure POTA, and pretty much immediately you get a pileup, like minutes into it. I got pileups in crazy spots from all over the place. Yeah, it's pretty exciting actually to see so many people trying to get back to you. Logging, also handled by WSGTX. So in comments, you want to put your park designation, you want to put your operator call sign in a multi-operator environment like us. So that's where we're putting our call sign, and you want to retain the comment so you don't have to retype it back. And that's it. You click OK and you running. SSB, all the rules apply. So you need to consult your band plan, so you're not calling POTA in the digital or CW. So most common frequencies that I've seen is in this range, kind of at the end of the frequency.
Probably have a decimal in it, or the kilohertz.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good point. Yeah, well spotted. Yeah, so it's.
What was that? What was that?
14.24 megahertz.
Yeah,
14.24.
it's either kilohertz here or
Right.
the decimal spots for
Okay.
megahertz.
Boy, that's high.
Yeah.
Short on 10.
Eat that word.
So you need to follow the rules. So you need to check the frequencies in use. You need to announce yourself. All the rules apply. And example CQ calls, I've heard a couple of them. Some of the long ones, CQ parks in the air, CQ parks in the air. This is Victor Echo 7 Sierra Alpha Romeo calling CQ POTA from Victor Echo 4069 Serpentine Wildlife Management Area standing by. Some people do that. It's a long one, so you probably want to have a recording for that. Short one, CQ POTA, this is V7 ACR QRZ. Anything in between, depending on your liking.
When we're out there today, we're using our own call signs, we have our own station, correct? Or are we using the
We're using club call sign, and we are putting ourselves as operator for that
Oh, when we log it in.
when we're logging in.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So there will be.
So this is example exchanges. In red, I highlighted what is required to be logged. So there's a lot going on here. POTA is not necessarily a contest. It's not like you just want information and move on. Some people chat, some people talk. It's really up to you, depending on your liking. Yeah, absolutely. So it's not like you're running contest. You can feel free to chat. I heard people asking about antennas, where they are, how's the weather. You know, that's what makes POTA kind of more interesting comparing to regular contests. So in this contest, in this example, the call sign of the hunter, that's what you need. The rest of it, there's no predefined exchanges on POTA. So all of this is just conversation. People typically give signal report 5-9 in BC, Bravo Charlie, Park, such and such. I got you 5-5 in Indiana, India, November, name is Bruce. None of it is matter, feel free to write it down, but all you need to log is his call sign, band, mode, date, time on. That's all you need to log. Okay? So this is park to park. When some people, when they arrive at the location, they're listening for airwaves and checking if other people doing POTA, and try to do park to park with them. Park to park is just extra point you can score, extra word. And you putting park to park. So this is actually the real conversation that we had. The guy was in Illinois. I had very hard time getting to him, but we managed. I was using telescopic antenna. So in park to park, another piece of information is his park, where the park he's at. And you give him your park. So he's logging that as well. So all of that, all as before, plus the park number. So the software, technically you don't need anything, you need a piece of paper, that's all. But because logs need to be uploaded as ADI files, you need a piece of software to prepare the logs for you. And lots of people use HammerS. That's the logger designed specifically for POTA. Makes it very, very easy. Has almost nothing going on here, almost nothing to fill. Very easy to get into, and all of the information is very, very self-explanatory. Plus the log editor. So in HammerS, you're building new logbook. This is the file naming convention that POTA recommends. Is your call sign at park, year, month, day. So in our case, it will be something like this. And you're using parks and data template to do logging. And in a software itself, as soon as you enter the call sign, if you have internet connection, it will do a QRZ lookup. It will tell us who that person is. It will put all of the times in UTC time. You're putting your signal report, your frequency, your band, your power, mode, park, my call sign, that's the operator, and the club call sign, that's the club. Migrate, again, as soon as you enter the park location, it will pull the grid for you from the internet. Makes it super, super useful. Export to ADI files. So from HammerS, it's exported into ADI file, and you want to review the file before submitting it to make sure that nothing is missing. Those are all of the information that needs to be present in the file. Make sure it's all there. Otherwise, your log will not be counted, that particular contact. So make sure that it's all there. So closing up the activation, review the log, make sure you got 10 contacts. Make sure I would recommend making more than 10 contacts just in case, because if few of them will not be counted, then you don't want to be leaving empty-handed from activation. So you go to the POTA page and put QRT in and quick thank you note to signify that you're shutting down your station and people will not be hunting for you. And take down your antenna and equipment, and because you're in the park, like, leave no traces behind. Don't leave any garbage. Kind of goes without saying, we all know that. Uploading the log, it's self-upload on the POTA website. Very easy to do. It's honest system, so you kind of confirming that you were at the park, the logs are accurate, everything is good. And your process for validation. Validation takes typically like 10 minutes, and then they say it's not gonna be reflected accurately at the park page for another 24 hours, usually another couple of hours, and everything is uploaded and everything is there. So it's self-upload, very easy to use as well. If you mess it up, you can request support. They will delete the log for you and let you re-upload it. Awards, there are too many to name. You can get awards for everything. Special events, number of activations, number of states, number of countries, DX. There's just too many. You can fill your wall with those awards. So notes, all times are UTC. So UTC time flips at 5 p.m. local time. So when you're going to the park at 4, make sure you have enough contacts, otherwise you might not have successful activation. Time sync is critical, so it's unbelievable how many times I start calling on FT8 only to realize that like nobody's getting back to me because my time is off. 2 seconds, that's all that's FT8 allows. Check the frequency, in FT8 especially because the band is so narrow. Lots of times I accidentally moved my dial. And I was calling off frequency. People were still getting back to me, but it was not very reliable. And even if you could not complete activation, meaning you have fewer than 10 contacts, still upload the logs as unsuccessful activation so the hunters can get their points, get their rewards, their credits. Okay, so finally, we are going to the field trip.
CQ POTA, CQ POTA, VE7 SAR, CQ POTA.
Have you been to the Delta Bird Sanctuary on West Island? I agree with this. Bird photography, though, it's not too much my thing, but I tried. Yeah.
Well, hey there, it's Victor Alpha 7 Lima Golf November doing some Parks on the Air at the Serpentine Wildlife Area. So I've got my station set up here. I have an FTDX10 transceiver, Yaesu. That is hooked up to a inverted V, which is configured as an end-fed random wire. I'm currently tuned up on 17 meters, and I'm just about to set up my laptop to do some FT8. So that's what I've got set up for today. Calling CQ for Parks on the Air. I see people on there.
No, 17, it's actually not bad at all. It's a band.
Yeah.
Better than 20, actually. When everything doesn't work, 17 is on.
Yeah. CQ POTA, this is Victor Echo 7 Sierra Alpha Romeo calling CQ for Parks on the Air.
Whiskey Yankee, over.
I copy that. Hotel Bravo 9 Tango Whiskey Yankee. I've got you about 5-4 into Park Victor Echo 4069 in Vancouver, British Columbia.
Okay, 4069, copy that.
That is affirmative.
Okay, great copy. And give me the name.
Name here is Andrew. Alpha, November, Delta, Romeo, Echo, Whiskey.
Yes, I copy, Andrew. Thank you so much. You're 583 on this side, 53. Okay. Heading west, Buckle Season, 60 kilometers to Geneva. Friendly, yeah, the Yankee Alpha November.
Today it's an Elecraft KX3 with an auto tuner built in. I've got the AX1 Elecraft antenna with a ground wire off on it. And I'm running, it's actually a lithium iron phosphate battery from Buddy Pool for power. And that's the simple station, and here we are enjoying the beautiful day.
And you're obviously pulling them in already.
Yeah.
CQ. Good to see you. This is POTA. This is Victor Echo 7 Sierra Alpha Romeo.
Oh, you're already back.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. See you.